Good afternoon. Let's try that one more time. Good afternoon. It's better, thank you. My name is Craig Galinsky. I'm director of the music ministry here at John Knox. First of all, it is my pleasure and an honor to play for these two. You will be totally amazed and blown away. Thank you for asking me. There is a drum in the back for donations to help with our music ministry. Also, there is a reception. Diane informed me there's enough cookies for 2 parties, so eat a lot. And at this point, I would like to, spring concert is May 18th. That is the last concert of the year. And at this point, I'd like to welcome Cheryl and Ed. Big round of applause for the EKCO Ringers.
The first selection today is an original work, Prayer for the Innocents. Handbell arranger Michael Hellman composed this piece for full handbell choir in response to the shootings at the Paris Bar in Orlando, Florida in June 2016. 49 people lost their lives in this domestic terror attack. Hellman composed prayer in remembrance of the victims and for everyone who has lost loved ones due to hate, intolerance, and violence. Beth Davidson, one half of the handbell duet team Handbells Unlimited, adopted Hellman's composition for handbell duet. It is currently unpublished. Change Ring Prelude on Divinum Mysterium is another piece adapted for handbell duet, this time by Kevin McChesney. The original arrangement by handbell composer Fred Grayman is based on the gentle hymn, Of the Father's Love Begotten. The introduction begins with a simple change ring pattern that grows in volume and complexity before the melody of the Father's Love Begotten enters. Are you familiar with change ringing? Well, change ringing is a traditional English art of ringing a set of bells in a precise rhythmic pattern. The bells are mounted on wheels in a tower above the ringers, who pull ropes to control the bells. After starting in repetitive rounds, at a given command, the ringers vary the bell's order to produce a series of distinct sequences known as changes. In this way, permutation of the bell's striking order proceeds. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 can become 2, 1, 4, 3, 6, 5 in the next sequence. Now imagine that you are in the old country where many old churches with magnificent carillons dot the landscape. One church bells begin to play a change ring sequence. Then another church begins to ring, and then another. Soon the entire town is filled with the ringing of bells, a wall of sound. In this piece, Ed and Cheryl will demonstrate a simple change ring at the beginning, and then you will hear the hymn of the Father's Love Begotten. The change ring patterns is highlighted once again at the end of the piece. Day by Day is the most well-known hymn written by Carolina Sandell, the daughter of a Swedish Lutheran pastor. She grew up to become Sweden's most celebrated author of gospel hymns. She wrote Day by Day after a family tragedy. She and her father were on a ferry crossing Lake Vänern in Sweden when the boat abruptly lurched to the side, tossing her father overboard. He drowned in the lake before anyone could save him. Like many Christians, Carolina learned that when disaster and tragedy strikes, God may use that experience to strengthen our faith. In the poem Day by Day, she recorded how dependent she was on the Lord to get her through her sadness. Savior Like a Shepherd, Lead Us is attributed to English woman Dorothy Trump, who wrote poems for children's magazines. The hymn text dates back to the 1830s, when it was first appeared in Trump's hymnal, Hymns for the Young. The words provided good imagery for children, God as the great shepherd and the children as his obedient sheep. It was about 20 years later that American musician William Bradbury composed the tune to go with the words and modified them to appeal to all members of the congregation. Handbell arranger Ron Mallory blends these two hymns, helping us feel comfort and knowledge that God will guide and strengthen us through both good times and bad. As Mallory describes, the piano figure at the beginning is reminiscent of a clock as time passes. The entrance of the tune, Savior Like a Shepherd Lead Us, is like a prayer, with us taking a break from regular routine to spend more time in fellowship with God. Then there is a key change, and the Day by Day tune returns as we get back to our daily tasks with renewed strength and hope. Gabriel Fauré was one of the most influential of French composers, linking the end of Romanticism with the beginning of the modern era. As a youth, Fauré demonstrated exceptional talent for music, and his father sent him to Paris to study piano and traditional church music. During his 11 years at the school, he progressed to being excellent pianist and burgeoning composer. After graduation, he enjoyed a long career as a church organist and choir master. He developed long-lasting friendships with his contemporaries Camille Saint-Saëns and Charles Mayer Widor. Fauré's most well-known compositions are Requiem, which explores the composer's beliefs in the afterlife, and Pavane. Fauré's Pavane, composed in 1887, is based on a traditional Spanish court dance. Written for a small orchestra of strings, flutes, oboes, clarinets, bassoons, and horns, Fauré later penned an arrangement that included a vocal choir. The choral lyrics refer to the romantic helplessness of man. Fauré described Pavane, a relatively short work, as excellent and non-particularly important.
Can we start somewhere? I need the F sharp. Where's the F sharp? Here it is. Okay, so, you know what, well, Ed doesn't know where we are though. That's where I messed up.
Be Thou My Vision is one of the oldest and most popular hymns throughout English-speaking Christians. The hymn has historical roots in Irish Celtic history. Legend has it that Be Thou My Vision begins with St. Patrick. At 16, pirates kidnapped him from Britain and sold him into slavery in Ireland. As an adult, Patrick assimilated into Ireland's Gaelic language and customs and also became a Christian. He managed to escape slavery and return home to England, but before long, he defied all conventional wisdom and returned to Ireland, the land of his slavery, to be a missionary. In the year 433, the Irish king, who hated Christianity, issued a decree in observation of a pagan Druid festival that prohibited anyone from lighting a flame or candle in the region, a decree that intentionally fell on Easter Sunday. But Patrick defied the king, and on Easter morning, he risked his life by climbing to the tallest hill called Slane Hill and lighting a huge bonfire, a traditional way of celebrating Easter in medieval times. Patrick wanted to show the world that God's light shines in darkness and that Christ alone and no pagan deity deserves praise. This event marked the beginning of Ireland's conversion to Christianity. For centuries after, it remained traditional in Ireland to light a bonfire on Easter morning in remembrance of Patrick's faith. An unknown composer wrote a melody in honor of Patrick's heroism. Called Slane, the composer named it after the hill where Patrick shined his light. The origin of the lyrics of Be Thou My Vision is much more obscure. In the 8th century, an unknown poet wrote a prayer asking God to be his vision, his wisdom, and his best thought by day or by night. Hundreds of years later, in 1905, Irish scholar Mary Elizabeth Byrne rediscovered the prayer and translated it into English. Another scholar, Eleanor Hull, took the translation and crafted it into verses with rhyme and meter. It was set to the Irish folk song Slane. Be Still My Soul was written by a German woman, Katharina von Schlegel. It is unknown whether she wrote her text following a catastrophic event or devastating loss, but her words resonate with anyone dealing with sorrow or grief. In the poem, Katharina presents us with a reminder of the one shelter for our sorrowful, weak souls, the faithfulness of God. There is confidence that God is always there to comfort us, and there will come a day when sorrow, disappointment, and fear are no more. Katharina's words are set to the tune Finlandia, composed by Jean Sibelius. Matthew Prinz created a sensitive arrangement of the tunes Slane and Finlandia for the handbell duet team Belladu. The composition intertwines the two melodies and includes a section that can be played on bell tree or using the six-in-hand technique. Just As I Am is another well-known and beloved hymn with a text written by Charlotte Elliott and tuned by William Bradbury. Charlotte lived in Brighton, England, and suffered from poor health throughout her life. Her illnesses made her feel depressed, isolated, and bitter toward God. "If God loved me, he would not have treated me this way," she is known to have said. A visit from a minister to the Elliott household greatly changed her feelings. Hearing her vent about her condition and blaming God for her troubles, the minister told her that she was full of hate and resentment because she had nothing else to cling to. During their talk, Charlotte softened and asked, "If I want to become a Christian and have the peace and joy you possess, what must I do?" He replied, "Give yourself to God now, just as you are, with your fightings and fears, your pride and your shame." Her heart changed that day, and she wrote "Just As I Am" to express hope and her renewed sense of worth, grounded in Christ's self-giving. Her poem was set to Bradbury's familiar tune and published in 1849. After her death, Charlotte's loved ones found thousands of letters that she had kept from people expressing their gratitude for the way that the hymn had also changed their lives. The handbell duet, arranged by Kevin McChesky, is one of the first pieces published by the Solo to Ensemble Project, otherwise known as STEP. Jesu, Joy of Man's Desiring is the popular English title of the chorale from the 1723 Advent cantata, Heart and Mouth and Deed and Life, cantata number 147 by Johann Sebastian Bach. The chorale occurs twice in the cantata with different texts each time. It appears in the 6th movement, It is Well for Me That I Have Jesus, and again as its 10th movement, Jesus Remains My Joy. Bach did not compose the melody for Jesu. That was written by Johann Schop. Bach just harmonized and orchestrated Schop's melody. The English title derives from famous piano transcriptions made by Myra Hess in 1926 for piano solo and in 1934 for piano duet. The chorale is often heard at weddings and during Advent, Christmas, and Easter. The music's wide popularity has led to numerous arrangements and transcriptions, so much so that it would be very surprising to hear of anyone unfamiliar with the melody. The Echo Ringers have had a lot of fun ringing handbells, and the next piece, Daisy Bell Fantasy, is definitely high on the fun list. This duet, arranged by Nancy Haskell, is a medley of songs primarily published in the late 1800s, a period in the U.S. referred to as the gay 90s. It was an age regarded as a time of prosperous and comfort and associated with gas lights, early cars, a surge in bicycle riding, and Sunday walks in the park. Some of the songs contained in this medley are Bicycle Built for Two, In the Good Old Summertime, I'm Forever Blowing Bubbles, In My Merry Oldsmobile, My Wild Irish Rose, and Oh Dear, What Can the Matter Be? Unfortunately, Nancy Haskell passed away before she could get this composition published. Cheryl and Ed were lucky and obtained the piece directly from Nancy at a handbell conference. Enjoy a trip back in time with Daisy Bell Fantasy.
Going down to the D and it's not on the table.
D?
Did we forget that? Give me that bell.
Oh, this is the one you're looking for?
That one, right? D. Goes right there.
That's as far as you were going with that?
That was
What do you
that
call
run.
that? What do you call that thing?
A run.
A run.
And I did it because it was so boring up here.
Well, let's get back to the song.
Okay.
1, 2.
The next selection is a solo titled Soldiers of the Cross, a medley of two hymns, Stand Up for Jesus, and Onward Christian Soldiers. Stand Up for Jesus, written by George Duffield, was inspired by the dying words of a young preacher from Philadelphia, Dudley Tenge. Tenge and his contemporaries were growing a new church by preaching at a local YMCA during employees' lunch hour. In one sermon, Tenge supposedly said, "I would rather that my right arm be amputated at the trunk, that I would come short of my duty to you in delivering God's message." Just a few days later, Tenge's arm was badly mangled in a farming accident, and he passed away the following week. In his final message, he urged his associates to continue with their ministerial work and to stand up for Jesus. Onward Christian Soldiers, written by the Reverend Sabine Baring Gould in 1865, began as a simple processional for children. He wrote the song as children from one school in Yorkshire would be joining forces with a school in a neighboring village to celebrate a school festival. He wanted the children to sing as they marched, but could not find a song that was suitable, and thus composed Onward Christian Soldiers. The song eventually made its way into English hymnals throughout the world. In 1871, Arthur Sullivan of Gilbert and Sullivan fame wrote the tune St. Gertrude for the hymn, and it became the standard melody. The hymn has received criticism for its militaristic feel, but the words of the hymn make it clear that the focus is on this spiritual battle, that our foe is Satan, not men, and that our King and Commander-in-Chief is the eternal, omnipotent Christ, whose kingdom cannot fail. This melody has been arranged by Christine Anderson, a nationally known handbell soloist and publisher of many works for solo handbells. Dance phrase that translates to dance of death. It's a musical tone poem that illustrates the universality of death. The concept is that death has the power to equalize all people. Death summons people from all walks of life to dance with him to their graves. Camille Saint-Saëns composed Danse Macabre in 1872. Cheryl and Ed have attended the Bayview Week of Handbells in Michigan for 14 years. One year, a silent auction was held during the week to raise funds for a new scholarship for young ringers. Composer Larry Sue donated a commissioned handbell piece as part of the auction, and Cheryl won the item. She worked with Larry to find a piece in the public domain that would be challenging, fun, and marketable. Danse Macabre resulted from their collaboration. The EKCO ringers perform it with mallets on the table to represent the clattering of the skeletons as they dance. Oh, I didn't realize. It's almost midnight. Soon we'll hear the chiming of the clock. Death will be coming to find more people to dance with.
Try that again.
Hyfrydol is a Welsh hymn tune, and the word is defined as pleasing, delightful, cheerful, and melodious. Composed by Roland Pritchard in 1830, Hyfrydol has been used as the setting for a number of Christian hymns, including Love Divine, All Love's Excelling, Alleluia, Sing to Jesus, I Will Sing of My Redeemer, Lord of Glory, who has bought us, and Come Thou Long Expected Jesus. The Symphonia on Hyfrydol that Ed and Cheryl will be playing is arranged by Kevin McChesney. This huge-sounding title has become a standard in the solo and duet handbell repertoire. It begins with a few verses played off the table and proceeds to a rousing ending performed on a bell tree. As you may have noticed, the duet has played a few selections arranged by Kevin McChesney. He was a pioneer of arrangements for solo and ensemble handbell ringers. He created STEP, the solo to ensemble project, to create and collect compositions for small ensembles. He, along with his friend Michael Kastner, also hosted several events called Solo to Ensemble Extravaganzas, focused on bringing small ensemble ringers together to learn, improve skills, and perform for one another. At one of these events, 6 pairs of ringers performed Symphonia on Hyfrydol in various corners of the performance hall, creating a euphony of sound for the audience, and it was quite impressive.
Other way.
Thank you very much for attending today's concert. We appreciate John Knox for hosting us and Craig Galinsky for providing our accompaniment. Yay, Craig. We do have one more selection for you. This song is most often heard at Christmas under the name West Indies Carol or Mary's Boy Child. A happy song with a Caribbean beat, this carol has been arranged for solo or duet bells by Christine Anderson. Ed and Cheryl call it their carol for all seasons because it is fun to play at any time of year. EKCO has performed it at Christmas, for summer programs, and even on a handbell cruise in the Caribbean. But it seems obvious when you are invited to perform on the ship, what song is better to perform in the West Indies than the West Indies Carol? Before they perform the song, we need some ambiance. So they'll put out some tiki torches, and they'll use some accompaniment that incorporates the sound of steel drums. And because it is not listed in your program, I just want to reiterate that this is the West Indies Carol arranged by Christine Anderson and published by Agape, a division of Hope Publishing. If you ever want to get into solo handbell ringing, check out the diverse catalog of Christine Anderson compositions at Hope. There are many for various skill levels.
Okay, so you know you heard that we played this on the cruise, so we need a little ambiance here. We have to get out our tiki torches. Oh, okay.
If anybody wants to try ringing bells, we got groups that are looking for bell ringers.
More round of applause for the Echo Ringers. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now, for those of you who like to eat, it's my turn and your turn to go eat some goodies. So I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for coming.